Hey, this is Chris with Protect Your Children, Inc. Thanks for checking out the video. I want to talk a few minutes about Nikolas Cruz. Anybody who's not aware of Nikolas Cruz, you probably don't follow the news or you just don't care. But Nikolas Cruz is a school shooter who he's pled guilty, so we have to say allegedly, he pled guilty. Killed 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman-Douglas School down in Florida. And I'm following the trial, and I'm listening to all the experts and the witnesses talk about his history growing up. Now, I understand that there's a hot debate about death penalty or not death penalty. I'm not going to get into that today. Anybody who makes that decision, that's between you and yourself, you and God. That's your own business. But the reality is that this child went through so much abuse and trauma from being in the womb all the way up to the point where he exploded, went nuts, and shot all those people. Now, anything that's said in this video certainly isn't to excuse the behavior. But even in a court of law, they have mitigating factors, right? Different factors that come into play that explain one's behavior, right? And how they may have got to the point that they got to. And that's what we see happening in the trial. We have the state doing everything they can to make sure he gets a death penalty. We have the defense doing everything they can to save his life. In that process, it's interesting because the state is bringing up witnesses to try to show that, hey, Nikolas Cruz's adoptive mother did everything she could. She was a great mom. He was just out of control. He's a psychopath. He's nuts, and he should be put to death. The defense is trying to show that there were warning signs way before this ever happened. Warning signs that should have been paid attention to, and more should have been done. Now, you will see that with every one of these school shooters, they're usually on some type of psychiatric drugs. They usually have a history of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. And they also have an obsession with violent video games. Okay, those are the three main things. Now, of course, with the history of physical, emotional abuse, that comes with broken homes. And all of that other stuff comes into play, of course. Not saying that everybody who plays a violent video game, kid's going to grow up to be a sociopath or a psycho killer. No, that's not what we're saying at all. But we have to look at that as a warning sign. And what really ticked me off today is I'm watching the trial, and the defense was questioning a witness, and she started to go down the road to see if this witness can testify. And this was like a therapist, I believe, not just somebody off the street. Go down the road of asking her if the things that Nikolas Cruz were doing could have been signs that he was sexually abused. And that's what we want to focus on right now. Protect Your Children, Inc. is a nonprofit organization. We protect kids from sexual predators online and in the community. We do that through education and awareness. And I want to look at for a second the fact that there were allegations that he put out and a couple others that he was sexually abused as a child and that this went on for many years. The court is not allowing that to come in. The state is like against that coming in. Why is that? Shouldn't this be talked about as part of how he became the way he became? Oh, what are you saying? That if a child is sexually abused, they're going to become a mass murderer? No. But it's another piece of the puzzle. And they can talk about him killing frogs, and they can talk about him saying racist things. They talked about him being bullied. They talked about him being given up right, at birth because his mom was a drug addict. allegedly. Talked about his adopted brother bullying him all the time. Talked about how he had developmental delays and he ran funny and he walked funny and he sounded funny and his ears sticked out and kids made fun of him. They can talk about all that stuff. But the moment the defense wants to talk about that, the fact that he may have been sexually abused, oh, nope, can't talk about that. Why is that? That's just as important as any of those other things. Now, were there warning signs? Yes, there were. They're going through all of the notes that the teachers took and the counselors took from the school system. And they're talking about how he would curse in class and he would disrupt the class and he was trying to get attention. Okay. But they also talked about how he would draw sexual organs, we'll keep this family friendly, sexual parts on his papers, how he would talk in sexual language at a young age. Now listen, those are two of the signs. If you've got a child who is talking in a sexual manner, and you have a child that's drawing male organs, never drew female ones, male organs, and he's trying to say something with that. He's trying to get a message across. Kids should not be doing that. But he was. Whenever he yelled at the female teachers, he would yell at them sometimes in a sexual fashion, very dirty, vivid language. Interesting for a child, wouldn't you say? They will not let this be talked about. We're here to say that this needs to be talked about. Now, you might be aware that there are two types of sexual abuse, right? There is physically forced, where a child is being forced to do stuff that they do not want to do, and it's under threat or fear or blackmail, right? And then there's a statutory abuse, where a child's been groomed since a young age, groomed to desire sexual activity, and somebody leads them into that. And I don't want to say the word mutual because the child's young, but it's not, that doesn't have a physically forcing component to it. It has more of an emotional forcing component to it. Right? But the warning signs are different with these two. Sometimes when it's not physically forced, it's very much harder to identify if a child's being abused. When it's physically forced or threatened, there is going to be a lot of anger, a lot of rage. There's going to be an attempt of the child to kind of say, hey, somebody help me. This is happening to me. And too many people write it off as just, oh, they're just misbehaving. They're just angry. Why are they angry? Could somebody be abusing him or her? Right? Why can't this be talked about? It is clear that there was some kind of sexual abuse in this child's life. Don't know who it was. We don't know if it was a friend, neighbor, family member. We don't know. Adopted brother. We don't know who it was. But he tried to say, look, this happened to me. This is part of the anger that I have. Nope, can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. Just nope, can't have that come in. We need to look at the seriousness of child sexual abuse. It is an epidemic. It is everywhere. This is what keeps myself and the other directors and the volunteers going forward in the mission that we have to educate and make people aware. These predators are in the school systems. They're in Hollywood. They're making music. Even commercials that are sexual in nature. Video games that are sexual in nature. There is a definite conspiracy, if you will, no tinfoil hats, actual conspiracy to desensitize and then hypersexualize kids. To get kids into desiring sexual activity at a young age. Convincing them that it's okay, even with an adult or an older teenager. Now, we don't know what Nikolas Cruz went through exactly when it comes to this. But clearly he's trying to speak about it with his lawyers, and the lawyers are trying to get this in. But the court's not allowing it. State's not allowing it. Why is the state so afraid that this will come out? They don't have to mention any names. I think the line of questioning by the defense, when they're asking an expert witness, or tried to ask an expert witness, hey, have you helped kids and had kids in your office that may have been sexually abused? She said, yup. And then she tried to say, hey, the stuff that Nikolas was doing, drawing the things on the paper and saying the things he was saying, do you think that could be a sign that he was, up, sidebar, can't have it. Can't talk about that. Shh, no good. Quiet. I think it's an injustice. So yes, a child being forced, either emotionally or physically, can definitely add to anger and resentment and issues with socializing. This can happen. And it needs to be talked about. It needs to be discussed. What are you guys watching out there? What do you think? Do you think he went through the sexual abuse? Do you think it should be allowed in the testimony? Please comment on this video. Do you think it should be allowed to be talked about? Again, don't have to mention any names of who they're saying did it, because they're saying it's just allegations at this point. But should they even hear about it? Yes or no? Let us know below. And I want to tell you, parents that are watching this, teenagers, even some kids that might find this, it's a very important point to make here. There's help available. There is education available. There's prevention available. Nobody has the right to threaten you, to blackmail you, to touch you. Nobody has a right to do that, especially not an adult. It has to be talked about, and it has to be dealt with. On our website, protectyourchildren.org, protectyourchildren.org, we have tons of great resources. Everything is free. In-depth protection packet teach you how to identify the warning signs of abuse. Profiles of predators, what to look for, what to be on the lookout for. Warning signs for parents, preventive measures for kids. There's an animated series called Talking with Topher on there for the younger kids. It's an animated character who goes through life and he encounters different possible predators and how he keeps himself safe. Tons of podcasts, videos, and other great information. Our website's jam-packed with information that can help keep kids safe. We need to get that information out there. We need to raise awareness on this. Now, Nikolas Cruz. Adoption, bullying, the alleged drug use while he was in the womb, bullying from kids at school, bullying in the neighborhood, developmentally delayed, may have walked a little funny, may have sounded a little funny, violent video games, which he loved to play. And every time his mom would dare to take the video game away, he would freak out and go crazy, which shows it's an addiction to violence. He allegedly was killing frogs in the neighborhood. The warning signs were there all along that he could end up becoming a school shooter. There was a previous case before this one. I can't recall the person's name, but he had a YouTube channel. And he was like crying out for help. He's telling people on the YouTube channel. Every time he posted a live, you could see from when he started it to just before he went and killed a whole bunch of people at a school. that he was deteriorating. He was even telling people, I got the guns today. He was telling people, I got what I need, and here's where I'm going to go, and here's when I'm going to do it. And this other shooter was talking about how he was trying to throw warning signs out there, but nobody would recognize it. He would leave all these signs and hints to his parents, and they just didn't even notice. And he slowly deteriorated until he got to the point where he went nuts and killed a bunch of people as well. We got to pay better attention to the warning signs and get kids the help that they need. Don't just throw them on a drug and leave them alone. We got to find out what they went through, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, bullying, blackmailing, whatever's going on. Parents, you got to find out what those issues are and work them out with your kids. Can't just throw them on a medicine and think they're going to be better after that. And that's something else that we've seen through this trial. Well, we changed his medicine because he was still getting angry. How about looking at the reason he's getting angry? Can we get to the root of it, please, instead of just trying to throw another pill and cover it up? What are you saying? That kids shouldn't be on medicine? No, I'm not saying that. As an organization, we're not saying that. What we're saying is that there's a place for medicine, but you also have to get to the root of what's going on in these kids' heads. If you don't get to the root, you're never going to help them. People maybe have tried, but they didn't look in the right places. Nikolas Cruz, from birth right up to now, went through so much hell in his life, and trauma, and abuse. Are we surprised that he got to the point that he got to? Are we surprised? Let us know your thoughts below. Please like and share this video. We can get other comments, other feedback. Tell us what you think. Should the discussion of sexual abuse come in to the trial, or should it be kept out? Do you think it could have played a part in why Nikolas Cruz became the shooter? Let us know. Thanks for watching. Keep your kids safe.